Hey guys, and welcome back to another Crabby Mondays. Today I just want to go over my Crabby goals, which are just the goals that I have for my crab room and all the crabs I'll be keeping. One is I want to figure out how much they grow in the molt regimen, which is basically just how often they molt and if it's kind of fixed or if it's dependent on the environment. And I want to try to manipulate some factors, environmental, some diet, to try to just kind of figure out what can get the best growth on them, or like basically how fast they have the potential to grow, and try to figure out how to balance that between figuring out how fast they can grow, which is basically profit maximizing in the business sense, to the actual health of the animal. If you want to try to figure out how fast they grow with each molt, like how much they grow with each molt, the molt regimen, and if that's influenced by any environmental or dietary factors. I also want to try to figure out what determines the sets of each crab type or species I keep. I've looked into this before and it's not something that a lot of people know about. Like I haven't been able to find anything, and a lot of the crabs we keep in aquaria are not thoroughly studied by science. And being a conservation ecologist with a minor in sustainability, I do kind of want to do something like that. I want to use my scientific degree to figure these things out. And I also want to figure out, do different crabs in the hobby crossbreed, and if so, which ones? Because I've read a lot of things about vampire crabs, which I'm going to be probably getting next after the Popomatano crabs. I'm going to get them before they breed. The Popomatano crabs breed. But I've read some things where they said a couple types have interbred, and I want to kind of see which ones do in a more controlled environment, keeping them separately, and maybe with the F1s or F2s, or I mean maybe even with the parents if they like. Another thing I really want to know is how many broods or how many offspring, like how many clutches of offspring do they carry under the telson before they die of old age? Because the panther crabs, and I kind of assume the Popomatano crabs are similar since they come from the same lake system, they are slow to mature. They take a while to mature from what I've read. Though again, this is all basically theoretical, and I want to kind of figure that out on my own with the F1s, F2s, and everything. Which F1 just means filial one, which is just the first batch of offspring. But I want to kind of figure that out with the Popomatano crabs and every other crab I breed. Kind of like how many crablets they have, what kind of survival rate they have in an aquarium, and also another thing with that is figure out what's the optimal way to keep them. Is it like a polydarium for like the vampire crabs? Is it like a immersed bin setup where like you have some, gravel and you just have a little bit of water? You don't actually have like a water feature, but they can kind of dig into that. I saw a video from Peabody's Paradise where they have it in that type of setup, and they say it's optimal for the crabs. Like, whenever I hear something, it's optimal, I'm always kind of a skeptic with that, because I'm like, I mean, I would think their natural habitat would be, like, optimal, since they're kind of adapted for that. But, I mean, that's kind of what I want to test is, even though they're adapted for the native environment and the native habitat, is there something that we can keep them in that is actually more optimal for us, as well as like a little bit better off for the crabs, as far as like okay guys, real quick, I just wanted to clarify something I said about the habitats and finding the balance between us and the crabs. One of the things that I'm also skeptical with is when people say you should keep the crabs in one way or another. Like, a lot of times I'm kind of concerned with, well, are they really, because I don't know, like, I want to visit these habitats that the crabs are from, and I want to figure that out firsthand. But at the same time, like, humidity levels is one crab that I'm looking into, that it says you don't have, it's not really concerned with humidity. Yet I'm kind of uneasy about that in a way, because it's like, if they have gills, they have to have some sort of water to be able to breathe, and that's just my whole concern. So I'm finding the balance between us and the crabs. It's not really how can we save, it's more like how should you really care for these animals, and what are some alternatives if you don't have the money for that type of thing, because I know some of these things can be expensive, time consuming, etc. So I just wanted to say that, because not everyone is autistic. I do kind of, I want to set up a polydarian, and I'm going to with some of my 10 gallons. But my biggest thing is I'm not an artist, so I'm not confident if I'll be able to make it like super fancy, like not super fancy, but super like balanced and natural. So I kind of want to figure out like what's the optimal setup for them. Maybe someone out there is that, you know, artistry type of person and they can do it easily. I've always struggled with aquascapes. As a matter of fact, this one's basically my best one thus far, and it's still like in the process of being worked on. So it's not something that is like, you know, I just want to figure out, you know, what works best with the crabs and find that balance between their natural habitat and what's kind of easiest for us, not like most convenient, but what's like most economical and everything. And another thing I want to kind of figure out is like, someone on my last Crabby Mondays video says it might have been any water parameters that were out of whack, and I didn't really think of that with my felled malt crab, but I guess KH could have went down. I don't know if they actually use the KH, which some plants do use if they need some carbonate hardness. That's what KH is carbonate hardness. And being they have calcium carbonate shells, that's what the exoskeleton is made of. It's basically calcium carbonate and chitin. So what he said, it really kind of got me to thinking maybe the KH decreased to the point that maybe it was too low or something. Like I kind of want to figure that out the next time they molt, and I will be measuring that more steadily and like probably every day or something as everyone's molting. But that's just kind of what I want to figure out with the crabs that I keep, and this is not a comprehensive list by far. There are a lot more things that I'm probably not thinking of that, you know, as things happen, it'll raise more questions for me, and as things happen, it'll kind of settle questions that may not be as important that I may have listed today. So just keep that in mind. There is a lot I want to study on these crabs, on every crab I keep, and next week I'll kind of go over like what crabs I'm going to be keeping at the same time as the Pulpomatano crabs, and kind of what setup they're going to be given. And hopefully I'll be able to have my crab room kind of finished by then, as far as like setting up, and it'll look a lot nicer in here. I won't be able to get all the habitats done by then because it's, you know, only a week away. This is Wednesday, the Wednesday before the video comes out, so it's not really, I mean, I'm sure I can get a lot of this done in a week, but I'm not sure I'll be able to get everything done in a week. I may not actually be able to show everything in next week's video. Excuse me, I might actually do a different type of video with like talking about the differences between the crustaceans in the sea, or, you know, in the lake or something. Kind of some interesting differences that you guys may not know about that I actually kind of, since I've been researching crabs, fish, and shrimps for a very long time, I kind of know a little bit more about it. And considering it's what I'm passionate about, the crabs especially, but also shrimps and fish, something I may be able to share with you guys and just kind of, I don't know, have a little bit of a fun time with. But I'll see you guys next week. If you want to stay tuned, I will be having a live stream on Thursday. I will be publishing a Fishy Fridays video, and I will be having a Saturday special and a Shrimp Sunday, as well as the usual Crabby Mondays on Mondays. So have a great week, you guys, and I'll see you next time.